This happened just a few months ago, back in early spring. That strange, blurry season caught between the cold of winter and the warmth of summer. But more than the season, it was a strange in-between time in my life. My name is Caleb, and I had just graduated from college in upstate New York. No more lectures, no more assignments, no structure to follow anymore. It seemed like a dream at first, freedom. But it didn't take long for all that free time to turn into something else. Something uncomfortable. See, I'd finished a semester early. At the time, it felt like a win. I pushed myself hard and managed to graduate before everyone else. But my full-time job wouldn't start until June. So for the time being, I was just floating. No classes. No work. No one to hang out with. Most of my friends were still cramming for finals or locked up in study mode. Meanwhile, I was sitting in my childhood bedroom, scrolling endlessly, watching the days slip by. The lack of purpose started eating at me. I'm the kind of person who needs something to do, some kind of structure to keep my mind from spiraling. So, when my mom asked if I'd do a quick favor for my Uncle David, I jumped at the chance before even hearing what it was. Turns out, it was pretty simple: drive out to his beach house in Eastport, Maine, and do a basic maintenance check. Make sure nothing was leaking, check the pipes, reset the breaker, that kind of thing. Easy. Uncle David usually hired someone to do it, but this time, I could save him the money. The house was a couple hours from where I lived, right along the coast, nestled in a quiet neighborhood of tall grass and winding back roads. The kind of place where it feels like time moves slower. The beach wasn't visible from the house, but you could hear the waves on a breezy day. I'd spent plenty of summers there with the extended family, 25 of us crammed into one oversized beach house, laughing, drinking too much, and staying up late over card games. That house had always been noisy and full of life. So it felt wrong pulling up to it alone. I can't remember what day it was, Thursday maybe. All I know is I left in the late afternoon, which, in hindsight, was a bad idea. The drive was easy enough. The house looked exactly as I remembered it. But the moment I stepped inside, the silence swallowed me whole. No voices. No laughter. No game pieces scattered across the table. No clatter from the kitchen. Just stillness. Cold and absolute. I ran through David's checklist, checked the pipes, tested the outlets, walked the perimeter. Everything looked fine. But something about being there alone, it made me feel like I didn't belong. Like the house itself remembered the chaos of summer and resented the quiet. I texted my mom to let her know everything looked good, and I'd be staying the night. I didn't feel like driving home in the dark. She told me to thank Uncle David, which I did. I made a quick dinner, scrolled through my phone a bit, and washed up. Now, during family trips, I always got stuck in a cramped third-floor room, small bed, shared bathroom, barely any privacy. But that night, I had the place to myself. So I did what anyone would do, I claimed the master bedroom. It was luxurious, king-sized bed, ensuite bathroom, walk-in closet. I stretched out like royalty and fell asleep quickly, lulled by the sound of distant waves and the hum of the old house. I don't know what time it was when I woke up. Sometime deep in the night. Something had pulled me out of sleep, some faint, almost imperceptible sound. My eyes opened slowly. My heart was already racing before I even understood why. Then I heard it again. A faint noise from the closet. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a tiny, subtle thud. Like something shifting ever so slightly. At first, I told myself I imagined it. Houses creak. Maybe something had fallen off a shelf. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I turned my head toward the closet, and even that tiny movement made my heart pound. I wasn't paralyzed, not exactly. I could move. But I didn't want to. I didn't dare. My body refused to listen, as if it knew something was in there. I squeezed my eyes shut and told myself to go back to sleep. It was nothing. It had to be nothing. But just as I started to drift again, I heard it. Another sound. Louder this time. A dull, heavy thump from inside the closet. I opened my eyes a sliver. Told myself again I was just being paranoid. Then, the closet door creaked open. Slowly. Deliberately. Through barely open eyes, I saw a shape move. A man. He stepped out from the shadows, his body silhouetted in the faint moonlight coming through the window. He didn't move. He just stood there. Watching me. He didn't speak. Didn't breathe loud. Just stood, unmoving, no more than 2 feet from my bed. 20 seconds passed. Maybe 30. It felt like hours. And then, without a word, he turned and walked away. I listened, holding my breath. His footsteps creaked across the old floorboards. I expected him to go downstairs. He didn't. He went upstairs. To the 3rd floor. To the room I should have been sleeping in. My body started working again, slowly. I reached for my phone with shaking fingers and dialed 911. My voice was barely a whisper, but the dispatcher understood enough. I locked the bedroom door and waited. Time dragged by like thick molasses until red and blue lights flickered across the walls. I ran down the stairs and flung the door open, nearly collapsing in relief as the officers poured inside. They searched the place top to bottom. And found nothing. They said the house was empty. That maybe he slipped out while I was distracted. But I knew that wasn't true. There was no time. No sound. And besides, the 3rd floor has no exit. No fire escape. No balcony. Just sealed windows. I called Uncle David. He was furious. Told the police to search again, thoroughly this time. So I followed them room by room. They checked everything, under beds, behind furniture, inside closets, under sinks. They knocked on walls, opened attic panels, pulled back shower curtains. And that's when they found it. A window. On the 3rd floor. Unlocked. It was in the very room I was supposed to sleep in. One officer stayed by the window while another went outside, flashlight sweeping the roof. Then he froze. There, perched like some grotesque gargoyle on the sloped rooftop, was the man. Bald. Pale. Dirty. His clothes were shredded and filthy, and his eyes looked vacant. Like he wasn't really there. He didn't run. He didn't resist. He just sat there. They got him down and cuffed him. The whole time, he never said a word. The cops guessed he was homeless. Said he'd been squatting in the house. Maybe for days. Maybe longer. But when they asked how he got in, or why he hid in the closet, he wouldn't answer. Just kept staring. Uncle David was shaken. We all were. The idea that he'd been living there in secret, watching, maybe waiting. And the most haunting part? I was never supposed to sleep in the master bedroom. If I had followed the usual pattern. If I'd climbed up to that 3rd floor. That night could have ended very differently. Now, every time I close a closet door, I think of that man. And wonder what he was waiting for. My buddy Mike has a beach house on the Jersey Shore. Calling it beautiful wouldn't do it justice, it's magnificent. At least to someone like me who didn't grow up with much, that's how it feels. It's been in Mike's family for generations. His grandparents even tried to make it their permanent home before they passed away. Since then, with most of his extended family out west and his parents too busy, the house just sits there, mostly empty. The upside? Mike gets near unlimited access, especially in the summer. His dad might have planned to rent it out, but nothing came of it. Not many people are eager to rent a beach house in the off-season. So, when Mike texted me in mid-July asking if I wanted to come down for the weekend, I didn't hesitate. The plan was simple: hang out, hit the beach, walk the boardwalk. Nothing crazy. Just a chill escape. He picked me up that Friday. We got there around 6, dropped our bags upstairs, and settled in. The house had that distinct cozy beach house smell, salt air mixed with old wood, like the scent of 100 family summers baked into the walls. We grabbed subs from a local spot and headed to the beach with fishing rods, not to catch anything, really, just to be out there. That's when we ran into 2 girls, about our age, walking barefoot along the shore. Mike, ever the extrovert, sparked a conversation. They were locals. The interaction was flirty in that effortless summer way. We got their numbers and parted ways, us to fish, them to continue their walk. Eventually, we found a quiet stretch of sand between some houses. It was perfect, private and peaceful. Just the wind and the water. A night that made you forget about everything else. The next morning, we jogged the boardwalk, got some sun, and skipped the nightlife in Seaside due to sheer exhaustion. We passed out early. Then sometime after midnight, I woke up. It was the kind of noise that doesn't let you stay asleep, shrill and piercing. At first, I thought it was in my dream, but the longer I lay there, the clearer it became, a high-pitched beeping, like a smoke detector gone haywire. But there was no smoke. No fire. The sound wasn't even coming from my room, it felt like it was coming from above. I jolted out of bed, ran to Mike's room, and shook him awake. He followed me upstairs, shirtless and confused. We burst onto the 3rd floor and started searching. That floor was dark except for the sliver of moonlight creeping in from the hallway window. No fire. No haze. Nothing. But the beeping was still there. Eventually, I found it, in one of the bedrooms, neatly tucked under a pillow, a small black device, about the size of a walkie-talkie. Smooth casing, a single blinking red light, and one switch. No screen, no brand, nothing. I flipped the switch off. The noise stopped instantly. Mike walked in just as I was holding it. We stared at each other. "You ever seen this before?" I asked. He shook his head. "No. Have you?" I hadn't. We sat for the next hour trying to make sense of it. Mike swore no one had been in the house. I believed him. Who would plant something like that in their own place? Then I had a thought. A horrible one. I flipped the switch on again. Beep beep beep. Switched it off. Silence. Mike's eyes widened. Oh my God. We realized something at the same time: the device had to be turned on by hand. Someone else was in the house. We didn't wait. Mike called the police while I shoved a dresser in front of the door. We waited in silence, hearts racing. The police finally arrived. We ran down to meet them and explained everything. They swept the entire house while we waited outside. What they found was worse than anything we imagined. Every window on the 3rd floor was wide open. The beds were flipped. Drawers pulled out. The room where I found the device had been completely ransacked, after we had been in it. Someone had been in that room, maybe while we were downstairs. The police found no one. No prints. Nothing. They told us to secure the windows and call if anything else happened. Then they left. Mike and I stayed the night, not because we wanted to, but because we had no other option. We left first thing in the morning. Whoever was in that house may have never left. I was 22 when this happened, old enough to know better, but young enough to trust the wrong people. Fresh out of college, I had a great job and was living rent-free in my childhood home. Savings piled up fast. My parents were incredibly supportive, and I didn't take that for granted. But despite how stable my life was, one weekend turned everything upside down. Lindsay, my best friend from college, invited me and 2 other friends, Sabrina and Thea, to her family's beach house. I'd never been, but I'd heard enough to know it was basically beachfront royalty. Private beach. Secluded. Gorgeous. Her parents are neurosurgeons, so I wasn't surprised when the house looked more like a futuristic fortress than a summer home. We all shared a room with 2 sets of bunk beds to make it feel like a sleepover. I'm not really the drinking type, but I was ready to cut loose, for once. That first night, we sat on the sand, sipping White Claws, playing music, and staring at the stars. Then we saw something strange, a flickering light in the distance. It was a flashlight. 3 or 4 people were walking along the shore toward us, laughing as they got closer. They seemed around our age. Beach boys, the kind my friends were clearly into. They were friendly. Charming. We all sat and drank together. It was casual, fun, even. After a while, they invited us to keep hanging out at their place. I passed. I was tired and wasn't interested in any of them. The other 3, especially Thea, were clearly game. I told them to enjoy themselves and walked back alone. Around 3 a.m., I was yanked from sleep by a FaceTime call from Lindsay. She was crying, panicked, yelling that Thea and Sabrina had been kidnapped. My heart dropped. She told me to take her car and chase them down. I didn't question it. I ran downstairs, shaking, jumped in the car, and started speeding. Lindsay stayed on the line, guiding me. 10 houses down. A dark SUV heading west. I spotted it and called the cops. They told me to follow, but from a distance. I did. Minutes later, sirens lit up the night. The SUV didn't run. It pulled over like it was nothing. Then chaos. The police yanked all 3 men out of the car at gunpoint. One officer opened the trunk, and there were Thea and Sabrina. Tied up. Bruised. The house they were staying in wasn't even theirs. It belonged to an elderly couple vacationing overseas. They had broken in and squatted there. Thea's parents are lawyers. They ensured the case never hit public media, and those men got the maximum sentences. I wish I could say justice helped. But after that night, I couldn't do beaches. I couldn't talk to strangers. Even now, when someone smiles at me, part of me wonders what they're hiding. Some summer nights change your life forever. These 2 did.